All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the third edition of the TruthBusters, your show for not their truth, but the truth. Hi, I'm your co-host, Jon Stewart, former professional wrestler, candidate for Illinois governor and businessman, and with me piloting the TruthBuster plane into the abyss, giving you all of the knowledge you're going to need going into your future. The truth. One way or another, you're going to get it from TruthBusters. Our co-host and pilot, Cueball Carmichael. How are you, Q?
Hey, good, Johnny. How are you tonight?
Well, so much is going on, and one of the things that I thought about today, I'd like your input, is the timing of this show. Literally is uncanny. To come on right at the start of the coronavirus, I think we are going to be doing a service to people out there, and so many topics are coming to light. More information, more whistleblowers, more files added to whatever topic you want. I'm really excited that we have. I think Q, you're a former and current stock analyst, broker in the market. Timing's everything, especially in the stock market. But I think right now we've hit it right on the head as far as timing, and I'm pretty excited about that.
Right now, they can't get any product. They're almost completely out, and it's going to freeze the business and cause layoffs within the next time. I mean, it's bad, and we brought it 2 weeks ago. We talked about the trickle-down effect to the small business person on Amazon and the small business person out there in America, and it's already happening now. So it's crazy. Perfect time.
Yeah. Again, too, Will, the intern, one of our associate producers, made a great point. I don't want to pat each other on the back, but I think we should go over briefly a couple of seconds of what we brought to light and how dead on we are. We were 2 Sundays ago telling everybody that we're fearing and we believe that there is going to be a stock market crash. 12 hours later, okay, the market drops 900 points, and we are 2 weeks off of that prediction. The stock market has dropped 4,000 points plus. At that point, it was almost down 5,000 points plus. So a kudos to the TruthBusters show. I'm not happy about it. And pensions and who are vested in the market, I'm sure they're not happy about it. But just goes that we're giving you the straight information here, folks. And we told you, my partner told you, there's no cure for the coronavirus. It is virulent. It is mutating. That it's not going to stop the infections. So we were at about 38,000 infections two weeks ago when my partner Cueball warned everyone that this was going to be a pandemic. And we're now at 109,000 cases. Those are people that have been tested. We haven't tested everybody that has the coronavirus. There are people out there, scientists and virologists that say the infection of people infected could be upwards of 300,000 to 400,000. And 3,805 deaths 2 weeks ago. We were hovering at around 1,800. So once again, TruthBusters brings you the straight shot. And one last item, Cueball brought up the nuclear facilities. No one's going to show up eventually. What is going to happen to these nuclear facilities? And on the internet, the New York newspaper last week, exactly what Cueball talked about 2 weeks ago. What happens when the frontline workers don't show up? So I'm proud of you. I know you are too. We've nailed it. Post and brag, but to simply prove to people that we're on the pulse. We have the best field research people out there, and I just wanted to congratulate you and I know it's bad news, but we're doing good. We are, you can have a wrong and a right in the same situation, and I think that's what we have here.
Well, I think what's going to happen is when people look back and they see our series of shows and they find out that 2 weeks ago we predicted what was going to happen with the stock market, and less than 12 hours later it crashed, and we predicted that this was going to be a massive pandemic, and the cases that were going to be diagnosed were going to be astronomically multiplied, and that's happening now. And I saw an expert in the medical field, I think it was Dr. Bob Arnott, say that this is the flu on steroids. And as wrestlers, we always do that comment and we're like cringe a little because of the wrestling business, but it's supposed to be the flu times 10, which unfortunately for kids and the elderly, that's the really bad thing. The healthy people are probably going to be able to get through this thing, but if you've been compromised by anything from chemotherapy to just plain bad health, and it hits you, you're going to be in trouble. So anybody out there that's feeling a little bit sick or a little bit fluish, get to the doctor immediately. If you have to go to the emergency room, go to the emergency room. Get professional treatment. Don't mess around with this. Don't think you just got a cold or you got a flu. Get it checked out and make sure, because they need to keep you hydrated, they need to keep you in the hospital, and have a vigilant watch over you if you get this virus. So, and like you said, it's sort of a bittersweet thing. We see this, we see where it's going. We see the travel internationally between China, other countries, and the U.S., and we know that it takes 2 to 6 weeks to show signs of it.
Scary.
Scary
is part of my opinion of the whole thing. Go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we'll move forward, but we're on top of everything we talk about with a lot of research, and I want people to realize that we do the research for the benefit of the listener.
Yeah.
We don't want to get out here and just talk back and forth about things. We want to make sure that we verified our facts and our statistics, and we're pretty sure through that process of research, it's not even really a prediction. It's just good research leads to the ultimate outcome of what we're talking about.
Right. And a couple of things before we move on, I'd like to bring up too. I did not speak with you or your associate producer this week. And also we like to give props to where we're getting this information too. I think that's important. But I was watching the Pluto network on, I guess, Roku or that, your free type TV, so to speak. And they have a really, by the way, anybody should check it out. They have a really great, one of their channels is the Conspiracy Channel, but it is fantastic. I mean, they'll put scientists and researchers on for 40, 45 minutes, some of these documentaries where they just boom, boom, boom. It's almost like listening to you and I. But what I wanted to bring up real quickly is one of the scientists was talking about the media, and I thought it was so tangentially related to the coronavirus about just the overall with the media, and it's exactly what we have been saying here for the past 2 and 3 weeks, which is you're going to get enough information that they want you to have, but you're not going to get all of the information that they have. And I was on the couch when I heard that, and I'm like, that is revealing and terrifying in the same breath. And I think it's funny. You and I, we're businessmen, we're former, kooky, crazy, wild pro wrestlers that aren't intelligent. And 3 weeks before the media is telling anybody, you and I are on, trying to be the Cape Crusaders, telling people, hey folks, this is a pandemic. This, without being religious, might be the apocalypse. Take this seriously. I know the media is not telling you anything because, God forbid, it's only real until George Stephanopoulos tells you it's real. And boy, I'd like to have a show just on him one day. Maybe Nick can set that up. But so I thought that was interesting. You're gonna hear what they have, but not all that they have. So just remember, this is and it's gonna get real. Huge. My lovely wife Joanne and I were at Costco yesterday, and I didn't see any tension, any panic buying, but everybody was buying massive packages of toilet paper, and I told her, I said, when their friends at the cocktail party, at the country club, at the office start dying, shit's going to get real. So be prepared.
It's ironic that we have seen, because of the business that I have on Amazon, I've seen hand sanitizer from a couple sites go from $12 to $52 a bottle.
Right.
The same hand sanitizer. And, until there's a state of emergency declared in the state, everybody will price gouge as much as they can. In New York now, there's a state of emergency, so there's no price gouging. But that doesn't protect the other countries. It doesn't stop the people from the internet from price gouging. No. But I've read the Bible cover to cover several times. And
I know you have.
In the Bible, the earth shall be cleansed by a great plague. Those exact words. And the coronavirus might be the great plague.
And have you seen the grasshopper? Folks, please don't roll your eyes and chuckle here. Q, have you seen the articles and the YouTubes and the videos of the city, CITY, sized locust hordes that have decimated Upper Africa and heading towards now China, the size of a city. We're talking 7-8 miles wide, blocking out the sun. I mean, apocalyptic. I don't know if you've seen that, but I mean, it almost is like we are living in the end days.
That's extremely scary because they are destroying thousands of acres of crops as they go through these areas.
Right.
And we're talking about anything from corn to wheat to whatever we eat every day. They destroy thousands of acres when that city-sized swarm of locusts come through there. And when you see that on video, I get chills because it's exactly what's described in the Bible too.
Right.
So it's very scary what's going on right now. And, it almost makes you feel like sooner or later we're all going to have to go into survivalist mode. But as long as there's YouTube and there's our great producer Nick London, we will continue to be on YouTube. Hopefully past that point. And if it gets real bad, everybody's coming to my house to have lots of firearms.
Right. Yeah. Somebody said today that they pointed the. You could tell he was a wealthy type executive guy getting in his Mercedes, and somebody, a friend of ours said, what's going to make him pick up a gun or take to the streets with a torch and a pitchfork. And I referred back to, this is not my words, but somebody that once said something 5, 6, 7 years ago, when you cut off that guy's internet and then he can't, and also when he can't feed his family, because what do they say? We're 9 meals away from starvation here in America because of the supply chain economics. That's when that guy takes to the street. So, let's keep the water and the food coming, and let's all be smart and keep washing your hands. That's simple, but effective, and be smart out there. And we don't want any of our listeners to get hurt by this, and hopefully they'll take our advice.
True story. Hey, let's do this. Why don't we jump right into tonight's subject?
Let's go.
And this is one that you have done an immense amount of research on it. Yeah. I've researched it to the point where, my bucket list is to retire in a year or two, jump in an RV, and go to some of these places that are on this list. And I'm actually having serious second thoughts about this. So I'm going to you've done more research than me, John. I'm going to let you lead off the topic for the night, which is.
Yeah, first of all, I don't want to get personal, but I think it's important. I think the context is important for the show, Q, is that I have been a gentleman. He was a former police detective. His name is David Politis, and he was hired to investigate a missing persons case some years ago. And I have been following his research and his books. He just recently had a video. I have found it personally. I don't want hate mail to come in. I have found him personally a little frustrating because from what I have determined, he never likes to come out with his theory. Thinking I don't know if he'll get pinned with it, or it sounds too crazy, or he's not going to be right, which I thought ends. There's no conclusion. There's no like, here's what I think. I've been investigating this for 10 years. Here's my summation. Very frustrating. I am not saying anything negative about him personally. His character is, the research he has done has been great, but I just wanted to get out there that very personally frustrating to me.
Well, as a police officer, we are programmed to never make assumptions and to follow the evidence until we have facts. Evidence takes us. And the problem is, and I see it from his standpoint, 20 years as an officer, he's so pre-programmed to not make assumptions, but to follow the evidence until he has a definitive answer. And when you watch that, you just want to hear, well, off the record, what are you thinking is the thing? But you're not going to get that because he's not trained to do that. And he doesn't have the definitive answer to where all these people have gone. So,
okay. Fair enough. I mean, that's why you're here. That's why you're the captain. Okay.
Yes.
Wow. This is the point in the documentary you start playing the creepy undertone music. Okay. So let's, folks, what you're about to hear is, it's hard almost to process. So finishing my intro for David Paulides in the Missing 411 series, he is investigating this missing person case at a national park, I believe out in either Nevada or California, and talks to a couple of the U.S. Forest Rangers there, and he retires to his cabin for the night, and he gets a knock on his door, and it's one of the Rangers, U.S. Forest Rangers, speaking off the record and in anonymity, and tells him frankly that there's more to the story of the person you're looking for, and this is not the only story, and something really, really bizarre is going on with disappearances in national parks. So Detective Paulides was, of course, extremely intrigued by that, and just doing some basic research of the beginning of his journey. He called the United States Forestry Division and the State Department, which handles the national parks. And he asked one simple question: do you have a master list of all of the missing people that have gone, missing case files of people that have gone missing in your national parks? And they were like, no, we don't keep that list. Mind you, the State Department, the National Park Service, they have lists. Sorry about that. They have lists of movies filmed in national parks, and really innocuous and mundane type information that really no one would care about. So, and he got a little, police detective vibe about from the United States government of something's going on. Maybe they don't know, but something's weird is going on here. Look, I know we only have 40 minutes left, so I'm going to kind of just fast forward, because remember what we told you in the first episode. We're not going to dilly-dally and talk blah, blah, blah. This is Jon Stewart and Cueball Carmichael. Okay, we're diving into the 8-foot end. Okay.
That's right.
5 years, 6 years later, he has investigated dozens and dozens, I don't know how many to account, of missing person cases in national parks. And here's what he's found. I've got my notes with me, but I kind of know it off the topic. First of all, usually it's a small child, and I'm talking 1, 2, 3, 4 years of age. Small child, depending on their parents. These children are 10, 15 feet away from their parents. They aren't down in a gorge. They aren't up on a ridge. They aren't in the water. They are walking beside or right in front or behind their parents. The parents turn around for seconds, and this child is gone. And I don't mean footprints. They dropped their Lunchable, their dinosaur flashlight that they were carrying, their fishing pole. This child, in all of these cases, has vanished like shutting off a light in a room. So the police come, the FBI comes down the road, searchers, investigators, forestry people. Um, they cannot find a trace of these children. Uh, they are
And
searching.
the dogs can't pick up a scent either.
Dogs can't pick up the scent, and oftentimes the dogs won't want to go in certain areas where they heel back and they're not going. Very strange. They canvass areas. They search 5, 10, 15-mile radius within hours. This is a 2-3-year-old child who is, you're thinking that's going to cover a 10, 15-mile radius in an hour. A 2-year-old child gone, vanished. There's no trace. There isn't anything. There isn't blood. There isn't anything. They come back 2-3 weeks later in an area that they've searched 5, 6, 7, 8 times with different searchers. All of a sudden, the child is there. Oftentimes, the child is dead. Oftentimes, sometimes the child, very few times, the child is alive. And here's what they find at the scene. The shoes are always removed from the child and placed in off to the side. And the shoes, after 2 or 3 weeks in the wilderness, would be, marred, dirty, rained on, look like crap. We've all left clothes out on the picnic table or on our patio, and they look horrible. The shoes are in pristine condition. 90% of the cases, the children's clothing are folded next to the body. They've been there 6, 7, 8 times. They have not seen anything. And they find it 2 or 3 weeks later. When the child is alive or dead, other than a couple of very minor scratches, the child, after being checked out by a physician, is in perfect health, has been fed, watered, not wanting for anything, in shock, but almost in perfect condition, like you pulled him out of his playroom, out of their house. Yet they've been in the wilderness, quote unquote, for 2-3 weeks. Here's another bizarre fact. Oftentimes, the child is found 200, 300, 400 feet above the missing zone. Now, they've had hikers go up there where they're scaling the mountainside. Les Stroud, one of the famous survivalists on TV, retraced the path where they found this child. He's like, I can barely do this. I'm a grown man. How can a 2 or 3-year-old child do this, climb up so high? They don't find drag marks from if a cougar, a mountain lion, or a bear would have dragged the child, and they would know that by the tips of the shoes or the heel of the shoes. There's none of it. Very, very bizarre. It's almost like a silent, invisible helicopter snatches these children, picks them up, strips them naked, puts them in a room for 3 weeks. They come back to the area, drop them 300, 400 feet above the area, or 15 miles away, traversing incredible, wild, different terrain. Drop them there, unclothed, cleaned, fed, not wanting for anything, and it's baffling everyone. The biggest scary part is that the National Park Service, the Forestry Division, and the State Department have not done anything about it. Have not followed any kind of, have not called an alert, so to speak, that this epidemic is going on. I wanted to get some other. Here's another thing that he's found out. Not in every case, but a high preponderance of the cases, or high amount of cases. Within 5, 6, 7, 8 hours of the child missing, disappearing, the weather changes dramatically. Snow comes in the next morning, rain, hail. Now, we know this is the mountains, but in all of those cases, the weather changes that, somebody can have a stretch of sunny weather for 2-3 weeks. I mean, that's. And so after researching all these cases, he's finding that the weather dramatically changes within hours of this child disappearing. Now they talk a lot about water. Of course, these are national parks, but in a lot of the cases, many of the cases, boulder fields, large boulder fields, rocks in an area, seem to be predominantly in the area, and it's always by water.
John, if I could,
Go ahead.
it isn't just rocks, it's granite. Granite's composed of 55% quartz. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the new technology, but a 1x1 a piece of polished quartz less than 3 millimeters thick, now they can store massive amounts of data on that. And what they've found is around the world where they have these huge granite statues, that those statues might store ancient data. So the unique thing is it's always around large granite boulders, which granite boulders themselves, because of the quartz, produce an energy field. So I find that very interesting.
I do too. Yeah, and I believe he came up with that when he started to, and you can see this map on Google. If you just Google it, David Paulides missing 411 map, you'll see these clusters of disappearances in all of these national parks. And to back up what Q was saying, when he investigated a little bit more, he found out that almost all of the areas of the missing children contain fields of this granite, which is really it. We're unlike him, and I don't want to say anything negative against David, but unlike him, I would like to, you and I, with our hypothesis and our theories, later on in the show. Let's go take. I'm wrapping up here. Not only are children missing, let's talk about adults that have been missing.
Well, I have one.
Go ahead. Great.
I have one that bothers me particularly in great fashion, and it's the case of David Kirk, who went missing in 2012 in Yosemite. And one of the things that really bothers me about that case, he was a Marine. He was in the Marine Corps. Ronald Kirk, excuse me. He was in the Marine Corps, a survivalist. He knew Red Rock Canyon, Calico Basin area extremely well. He'd hiked there literally dozens of times, if not hundreds. He went missing in January 2012. He had a history of spending time outdoors, especially in that area, going for a day or two or three and camping. He let friends know that he was going, and nobody was concerned. However, it actually proved to be the last time that anyone had talked to him or seen him. But what was really weird is the search and rescue teams found him months after an extensive search of that area. Now, typically when law enforcement's involved, the FBI, any form of law enforcement, we do something called a grid search, where we put people 2 to 3 feet apart and we walk through an area straight east to west. Then we go back to the area north to south. Once that grid is searched, if there's anything remotely there, the size of a human, it cannot be missed. It just isn't missed. I mean, these searches are grid searches, 2 to 3 feet apart, walking at the same pace across this area, east to west, north to south, east to west, whatever. But it's actually done in a grid pattern, so it's very difficult to miss somebody. And what makes that very interesting to me is that months later, he was found less than 200 feet off the main trail that he had taken. No cause of death due to the fact that the body had been there for a while. General absence of communication from law enforcement, talking back and forth about this. And David Paulides, as you said, he noticed the reoccurring motif on this particular case of bodies turning up in an area that rescuers had already combed in a grid search. In other words, that body wasn't there. Now, law enforcement and the National Park Service had come up with this theory once he was found, and they could find no cause of death. And this place where he found called Turtle Head Peak. Authorities justified the delay in the discovery of his remains as an optical anomaly. They explained that the body blended in so well with the pigment of the soil and the rock formations it would have been easy to walk within 2 or 3 feet of him and not see him. Now, I don't believe that because of what he was wearing did not blend in with rocks or boulders. He wasn't wearing gray. He was wearing green. If they'd found him in the trees, perhaps. When he's found amongst rocks and granite, and he's wearing bright green, and people walk through that area more than once in a grid search, 2 to 3 feet apart, and they couldn't find the body. Yet months later, a hiker wanders upon it. That's how close it was to the trail. That case particularly not just bothered the employees, but it bothered me because here's an ex-Marine Corps a person who served, who has camped and hiked dozens of times into the mountains. Nobody ever worried about him going by himself. And in the immediate grid search for him, 4 days later, they searched that area for 2 weeks in repetitive grid searches. He was found less than 200 feet from where he was supposed to be the time he went missing. And this is the frustrating thing for me. It's a national park, so national law enforcement is handling the investigation. They get assistance from local people to help search and things, but this is a national case. And when national law enforcement explains that it's an optical anomaly is why they didn't find the body, to me is like saying, we should start playing baseball with instead of using baseballs, we should start using footballs or basketballs. Right. It's so odd and so disturbing to me that this is a classic example of the body was not there when they searched the area. The body was not in that place. So,
well, I've had people, I've had debunkers. Well, John, don't you remember you tell the story where you were looking for the deer you shot? You were standing there in the woods, and you're going, where is it? Where is it? Your buddy was going, it's right in front of your feet. And I looked down, and there was the deer perfectly blended in. Okay, that's true. But as Cueball and I will tell you, that these little kids are wearing, superhero pajamas, or royal blues and reds and whites, and this former soldier was wearing bright green against, all pale colored rocks. That dog doesn't hunt. It's a specious argument, and one that does not fly with these cases.
Yeah, I don't accept it at all.
No. And Q, this is another thing that if we start talking about some of the adults, experienced hunters have gone missing. They find them 2-3 weeks later. This is for mature audiences. This is what I'm about to say. The bottoms of their feet are the skin is been worn down to the heel bone. You can't walk on that. Yet they don't have any shoes, because that's the biggest thing with all the shoes. The shoes are taken off. The shoes are taken off. If I had to write a book, that would be the title of the book of this subject matter. Where are the shoes? Shoes are taken off. They found this experienced hunter, who had walked on supposedly a couple of miles on his feet that were completely worn to his heel bone. They find him in the river. Well, he must have drowned. They take him to a forensic pathologist. The pathologist said, this guy died of unknown causes. He didn't drown. So if you died of unknown causes, you can't walk. Who put you in the river? I mean, somebody had to pick up that body and move it. They found kids, a couple of kids in an island in the middle of the river. The kids aren't wet. Well, how do you explain that? The anomalies, the bizarreness of all of this, it just goes on and on and on. There's a really famous case, the Orr child in Idaho. The FBI examines it. Everyone's calling the parents the child killers. The FBI does a 6-month investigation and says there's no homicide here. This kid disappeared. So it is really, really scary, and something I agree with you. I mean, I don't think the Stewart family are going to be taking any trips to the national parks anytime soon.
Well, absolutely not. And another thing that I find really disturbing is when there's been somebody missing who was in a group, it's always the last person missing. But people will say when there was 4 or 5 hikers and the last one disappeared, the person will say, I had just turned around and spoke to him, turned back around, thought of something else, and turned around, and they were gone. Like they completely vanished. And it's always the last person in the group. Always. That's just, it's just so hard to imagine that this could be happening, and we don't have some kind of, hypothesis to what the cause is. And I think we both have our own, but it's just strange.
And onto your what you just said about getting information. There's been numerous researchers and people that track human beings for a living and do this professionally, and law enforcement people have all said, my God, if we could just have a database, data. This is 2020. I mean, compiling a database takes days, weeks.
I believe they have a database.
Well, yeah. One that we're allowed to see.
Yeah, I believe that, as always, they're trying to give us their truth, not the truth.
Right. But these researchers are saying that if they had a database, how much more assistance that would help them in finding these people. We just not finding, not so much of pinpointing exactly where a body is, but what we could do better than the last case. What was done in this case that's similar to that case? What can we alter or do something different to have more success than the previous cases that were very similar to what we're looking for now? And I thought that was really interesting. And he's right. In this age of data, which is people say is more valuable than oil now, I think it's appalling that the United States government and the Forest Service and the State Department or the State Department of Interior, I'm sorry, it's not the State Department,
right.
The Department of the Interior that handles national parks, doesn't have a database where law enforcement officers like yourself could access immediately when a missing person goes missing in a national park.
One of the suspicions about, and you mentioned this about the weather rapidly changing, one of the hypotheses out there is that the federal government's actually involved, and they do cloud seeding to change the weather to make the initial search extremely difficult. So it's called off for several days. That's one of the theories, that somehow the government's involved in their cloud seeding to change the weather. And I read that, and when I read that, I started to think, we have the conspiracy mind concept, because we know that for years, like with UFOs, everybody knows that they're out there. They've been out there for years, at least since Roswell, and probably back a couple thousand years, to give technology to people of that era. The government will still deny that there's no such thing as UFOs, and they'll make up some excuse for it. In the past couple of years, since Navy pilot footage has been leaked, there's been some of an admission. But, I find it interesting, the country of Chile has the most UFO sightings of any country in the world, and the federal government puts it on the news the very next day to the people about the UFO sighting. They don't hide it.
Right.
So everything, so many things are hidden from us, from our government. They have the mentality of need to know basis. Let's keep the sheep in the field, feed them just enough to survive, and just keep the sheep out there while we stay back here. So, hey, there might not be a list because there might be something more to the story.
Exactly.
Why would the government want to have a list of all the people who went missing, the circumstances in which they went missing, if they were part of it?
Right. Talk about, the government in line, and you and I with our bullshit meters that, should be patented. It's like, you've owned businesses. You walk in, you walk into am I not supposed to swear?
No, it's fine.
Okay. You walk into your bookkeeper's office and say, well, where's the $12,000 deposit from last week? And they home and you can't see it. It raises. If we ask the government for information, they don't have it. It got destroyed. The telemetry tapes of the most important event in human history, the moon landing, they threw out. They taped over them. Prints so that landed on the moon. Those blueprints were destroyed. The most important event in human history. I'm not going off on a tangent here or going off subject. I'm just saying that when the United States government tells me, oh, yeah, thousands of people have disappeared in the national forest. We don't know their names. We don't know their ages. We don't know the dates. Local law enforcement has that. We didn't find it necessary to compile a big database. That, to me is bullshit.
Bullshit meter pegged.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to, before we started get into our theories and whatnot, just a couple of more of the, so I talked about the hunter in the woods. There's the 75-year-old father, former hunter, massive coronary disease, could barely walk 5 or 10 feet. Hey, Dad, stay here. We're just going to go out for 10, 15 minutes. They leave him. They come back 10 minutes later. He's gone, and he's found 5 miles from camp. This is a guy that couldn't walk 15. I mean, literally couldn't walk 15 feet. He doesn't have his oxygen tank, his oxygen mask. I mean, just nothing makes sense. And now David Paulides is finding that physicists around the world are going missing. Yes, physicists. And of German nationality. Not from Germany, but their nationality is German.
Right.
So,
and a lot of these people fall into that category. I mean, you think about it this way. How are they picking a particular, also a lot of them had Rh negative, Rh positive blood type. They had a really strange blood type, which is really weird. And another thing is, I have found this to be, I verified this through several sources, that a lot of the people that go missing happen to be wearing an item of red clothing.
Wow, I didn't hear that. That is
either a red hat, a red shirt, a red bandana around the neck. Yeah, they're wearing an item of red, which is extremely mysterious. In the group situation where the last person went missing, several times the groups had said that they had seen figures in the woods behind trees move. They had seen shadows. They had seen some form of movement in the woods that had caught their eye prior to the person last in line disappearing. So that's kind of interesting too. But yeah, an item of red clothing.
Yeah, that's it.
I know the guy I talked about was wearing a red hat. So
yeah, and there's another thing too. That red. I'm gonna have to. That's very interesting. Another thing that I forgot to mention, that many of these children are on the autistic spectrum or have some sort of a disability. So I find that a little, children on the spectrum having disability. I mean, they're traversing 5-6 miles over rough terrain in a matter of hours. It just, nothing flies, nothing makes sense, and immediately, as David Paulides has found out, trying to hopefully year after year, from what he has said on radio and on the internet and in his books, hoping to finally come to a normal answer to all of this craziness. And after 8, 9, 10 years, still is totally baffled. And you're talking about a researcher who's dealt with dozens and dozens of these cases, talked to countless, hundreds, if not thousands, of other researchers and scientists and law enforcement and parents and the people that were there when these individuals went missing. It's very, very, very terrifying. And it's just like the nuclear facilities we've talked about in our shows. It's like the coronavirus. We're talking about human beings here.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, Q, but I mean, I do know, but I'm not going to speak for you. When you talk about somebody's dying, never coming back, never going to live a fulfilling life, I'm bothered by that. And if there's some way that can be stopped, and halted and prevented, then that really irks me. And I think that's something that that is driving David Paulides, and something that a lot of people researching this are using as their motivation to keep going. So let me ask you something. We've gone over all of the facts, and the bizarreness of this case. What say you? Give me your take and why you feel what is going on here. What's your theory?
Well, it's not going to be a popular theory, but and maybe it will. Who knows? Maybe people are like, oh yeah, that's what it is.
Right.
Due to the fact that people have basically disappeared almost in front of people,
right,
that dogs can't pick up a scent to follow a trail, and then they act very strange. And this isn't one dog, this is dozens of dogs. I believe that it involves one of two scenarios. First off, it's UFO abduction, which, let's face it, 90,000 people go missing every year in the United States. All 90,000 didn't get abducted by aliens, but all 90,000 didn't run away and create a new life and a new identity either. 90,000. And I believe possibly there's a collusionary effect between the U.S. government and these aliens or UFOs of letting them abduct people on a deal that they made with them for technology versus experiment. Because let's face it, to the U.S. government, we are 9 digits, and it's called the Social Security number. And that is all we are to our government. We're possibly a voter, but we're 9 numbers.
I was waiting for you to have one of your cue ball statements, so I'm glad you didn't disappoint us.
We are
And I'm not laughing.
numbers.
I'm not laughing. He's right, and it's sickening. It's disgusting. It's sickening. But I'm glad my friend came up with another cue ballism. Go ahead.
Never let you down,
No,
buddy.
You never do.
Go
ahead.
Those are my 2 theories. I'm waiting for yours now, Johnny.
Wow. I don't think it's animal. Yes, deer, cougar, mountain lions can move through the woods with such stealth. I've had deer walk up on me that are 10 feet away. I swear to God, I didn't hear a thing. But when professional trackers and law enforcement and hunters and professionals that know a hell of a lot more about abductions in the wild than myself, and they tell me that there's no evidence of blood, the dragging the body. Even some people have suggested that a large bird of prey was picking up these children. Now, the children that they have found, the bodies they have found, have no talon marks on the shoulders whatsoever. So that's the only thing about finding the body. And again, TruthBusters, we're going to tell you it all. We're not going to not tell you certain things. So to make our point, we're going to tell you all. Somebody had a great point. Mountain lions and cougars will kill something, bury it, and dig it out weeks later. Okay, so that's why the searchers are not finding the body right away, and 3 weeks later they find the body. Well, wait a minute. Well, when they find the body, there's usually the stomach is eaten first by a lion, North American lion. Every animal has destroyed this little child or this person. So that theory out the window. So I've been researching, reading about this for 7-8 years. I'm perplexed, but I think when you talk about one more fact that I think that it is metaphysical or extraterrestrial in nature, some of these children who are found alive and dead have their clothing put on backwards, the shoes put on different feet, meaning that someone knows where the clothing goes, but doesn't know how to perfectly fit that. Now, in the TruthBusters research team this week, we found a case, a very compelling case of a close encounters of the third kind, where a father and a son were confronted by a spacecraft with entities that came out of the spacecraft. The father was taken off to the side by two aliens, and the third alien took the little boy back to the car. This is the little boy's account and the father's account that matched. Took the little boy back to the car, and the only thing the little boy could describe the interaction for 5 minutes with this alien was he knew about human life, but he didn't know about like the right things to say. Mix up phraseology. He fumbled with things, almost like someone that kind of like if I went to go and I don't even know of a perfect analogy, but something where you observe something and then you try and apply it and get involved, and you really can't get the gist of it. So I find that finding these children with their clothing on backwards, their shoes off to the side, or when they are on the bodies, the shoes are not put on the right way. That's a bipedal hominid with hands, and if it was Bigfoot, which I believe is a real creature, I don't think you would find the child. I think Bigfoot would have consumed that like any top pyramid predator.
Right, and even if not, if just say that the Bigfoot had somehow in the custody of the Bigfoot, the child had died, they would do what they do with themselves, which is bury the body. That's why we never find bodies of Bigfoot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, you don't have talon marks of birds of prey. I think the apex predators, from mountain lions, cougars, to Bigfoot, to bears, we don't find the bodies consumed, the clothes being put on the wrong way, bodies being put 300-400 feet up on plateaus and ledges where a 2 or 3-year-old could never get to, the body disappearing for 3 weeks and all of a sudden reappearing. I'm sorry, and then the silence of it all, the almost mystical, magical poof, like a David Copperfield show. I don't even think the Army could perform that. So knowing what I've known, and the people that I have seen spoken out about, the deal that we've made with extraterrestrials is, you give us technology, we'll let you abduct some of our citizenry. Explain where you hit it right on the head. Explain where 90,000 people are going every year. I mean that's incredible. And I don't know the definitive answer, but I do know that biological entities from other planets, solar systems, other dimensions, I'll believe anything. Are abducting these children, and you're right. I think it is the granite that is drawing the attention of these extraterrestrial biological entities to these areas and getting these children.
And let's do one thing right now for all of our listeners. Please put in the comment section on YouTube what you think is going on.
Absolutely.
We're hearing from the listeners. Just when you watch this show, put in the comment section what you think is going on. And please remember to hit like and hit subscribe.
Yeah, I mean, again, remember we said for our first episode, we want to hear from you. If you're a whistleblower, a leaker, an informer, an insider, please contact the show. Put it in the YouTube comment section. Do it anonymously. We will follow up. I behalf of my partner and myself, we will follow up on your comments. I promise you that. So another great show, Q. I think this is a subject that we will, I hope, continue to look at and research and follow up, and hopefully have David Paulides on this show at one point. Again, we're talking about human lives, and this could have been, God forbid, our children, our fathers, our mothers and sisters, and and whatnot. And that is really what gives me pause here.
You know, and in summation, I would say if a family went camping for the first time in a national park and one of them disappeared, it would be one thing.
Yeah.
Experienced military personnel, experienced hunters who go out in the woods, and you hunt and I hunt, and we know, we can, if you're not yet skilled in north, south, east, west, due to stars or due to the sun, you can always take a compass with you. But we're talking about people that have spent their lives, like you and I, raised hunting from the time we were boys.
Yeah, sure.
You can put me in any national park, and I can tell you this: within 48 hours, I will walk out into civilization, unless something else takes me somewhere else. I'll walk out. If you put me in the deepest park, I'll get out. You'll get out. But these people are just disappearing, and for the federal government to say, no list compiled. We know they have a list. We do. We absolutely know it. They can deny it till they're blue in the face. And this is the great thing about TruthBusters is we know the truth because we do the research that's necessary. Also in the comment section, put down what you'd like us to do for a future show. If you want to hear us talk about something that fits in the TruthBusters, which is everything from Bigfoot to aliens, to conspiracy theories, to the missing, put it in the comment section. Please don't forget to hit like and subscribe so we continue to do more shows like these to make you, at the end of this, hopefully, some of the listeners are scratching their head going, wow, I never thought of that. Because that's really what we're trying to do. Understand something. There's the truth fed through the government via the media, which the media is all propaganda, fed that everything the government tells them they print. And there's a problem in America that people believe everything they see, read, and hear. And that comes from the news, the internet, and television. And I can tell you, with the government, we know, and the law enforcement, it's a need-to-know basis, and the American people do not need to know, so we're not getting told the truth on this subject, just like a lot of others. So please understand, we're going to bring you an option to what the real truth actually might be on TruthBusters.
And absolutely, and part of the people giving us their feedback is that we can follow up with them too. If their information that they have given us, we won't maybe not cover it the next episode. We will certainly follow up with them via email. And Nick London, I'm sure you'll help us and keep in contact with these people. And then of course, taking their subject matter and reviewing it and doing a show out of it. I want the listeners to know that Q and I are committed like your stockbroker in the conspiracy world. You pick up the phone, you tell us what you want, you tell us what you think, you give us some information. We're going after it. I promise you that. And if I am lying, then please call me to the carpet. But I know that I'm not. So.
And if you're in the stock market and you want to give us a hint on a really good upcoming IPO, please do.
Right.
John and I are always looking to make sure our portfolios are very diverse.
Absolutely, yeah, especially now with the 4,000 drop. Okay, Nick London, you want to
talk about?
Go ahead.
One of the things I wanted to talk about with you really quick. When do you think? Not that we discovered alien technology and started to reverse engineer it, because we all know that was in Roswell. But, and all the stuff, just so everybody knows, was never in Area 51. That's just what you think it is. It's in Area 52. And one of these days, if you listen long enough, you hit like, subscribe. I'm going to tell you where Area 52 actually is, because I know. So, anyway, Area 51, it was nothing but a red herring, man. It was never there. So, when do you think U.S. government started working in conjunction with aliens and their technology in a program that allows them to abduct people for experiments in exchange for information that has taken technology in the last 20 years through the... What do you think that happened?
Well,
Wait. We'll answer that in the next show. If you want to hear it, make sure you tune in next week.
Because I've got the answer.
Sunday night, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central Time. Up there next Canadian area of St. John's there, it's going to be an hour later. So just so you know. But 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time next week, we're going to answer that question that we just raised. And I might even tell you where Area 52 is. Johnny, you want to take us out?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank everybody for joining the TruthBusters, the fastest rising conspiracy podcast in America. Take that to the bank. On behalf of our producer, one of the best producers in all of the internet, Nick London, on behalf of Cueball Carmichael, the pilot of this crazy airship we call the TruthBusters, I'm Johnny Stewart. Join us next Sunday, same time, same channel, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Look for us. It is the TruthBusters, not giving you their truth, but the truth. Good night, everybody.
Hit like and